Hello and welcome back. In this video in our series, our mini-series on tourniquets, I wanted to talk about colors of tourniquets and why they're important. So typically when we are dealing with tourniquets, looking at tourniquets, we see three primary colors, generally speaking. At least to me, they seem the most common colors out there in the world of tourniquets, at least when we're talking about emergency tourniquets for extremities, which we are. You'll see black, which I think by far seems to be at least the most popular. You'll see some shade of orange, and then lastly, you'll see blue. Now, that's not to say some tourniquets are not produced in other colors. They are. For example, the rat's tourniquet that I showed us in our first video in the mini-series is, I think it comes in about 5 different colors, including a shade of green, for example. And as another example, another great example, the American Red Cross has adopted the TacMed Solutions Soft T tourniquet, and they've had it produced, or they have produced it for the American Red Cross in red, as you might imagine, since red apparently is the American Red Cross's primary color. So there are some exceptions, but typically you'll see black, orange, and blue. And so black is cool. You know, most of all the tourniquets that I have in my kits are black. You'll see law enforcement carrying black. Orange is for, generally speaking, emergency responders. The idea being with orange is when they get to the hospital, when the patient with the tourniquet gets to the hospital, or at any point, it's readily obvious that they have this bright orange tourniquet on a limb. So orange is generally equated with emergency services, first responders, that sort of thing. It's not to say that you as a civilian can't have black or orange. You certainly can, but that's kind of the usage of orange, generally speaking. And then last, and what I wanted to talk to you about today, is blue. And blue is very important for us to kind of keep in mind. And just showing one of the trainers here. I have all the approved tourniquets in training blue. And so why is blue a color of note? Why should you pay attention to blue? It's a great question. Blue denotes a training tourniquet. And so you say, well, Jim, why is denoting a training tourniquet so important? Well, a training tourniquet is meant for a reason. It's for training. And that's important. Why? It's important because a training tourniquet is meant for multiple uses across multiple classes by multiple students. And so as a tourniquet gets used, it breaks down, as you might imagine. It's a hook and latch. Sometimes, at least, it's a hook and latch. It's got hook and latch involved. There's elastic parts to this. You know, if your training gear is kept in the trunk of your hot vehicle, whatever, over time, it can break down. But simply by using the tourniquet, it loses its potency, so to speak. So blue, it's important to note that tourniquets that are blue are meant for training, and that's important to remember that training tourniquets get used multiple times. And so if we're looking for a tourniquet to use for purpose, we probably don't want to use a blue because it has been used multiple times and probably has begun to experience degradation of some aspect of the tourniquet, right? And so we want to avoid using it for a real scenario. There's maybe a few exceptions to that, and this is just coming from the way I think about things. One is we talked about in the first video, which if you haven't seen, I recommend you going back and watching kind of an overview of what tourniquets are, categories of tourniquets, and some examples of types of tourniquets that you'll see out there. But one of the exceptions to not using a blue tourniquet for a real situation is If you have been the one to take that blue tourniquet out of its original clear shrink wrap, and you know for sure it's never been used in training, never been used before, then yes, you can use a blue tourniquet. If you watched someone else take a blue tourniquet out of the packaging in the moment, you're on scene, you need a tourniquet, all there is blue for whatever the reason is, and you watch someone else taking out of its clear shrink wrap, which most of these come in most of the time, then yes, if it's never been used before, you can use a blue tourniquet in a real scenario should you need to. And then last but not least, if for whatever reason, which would be the extreme of extreme scenarios, if a blue tourniquet, regardless of whether it's new or used before, is all you had, and a wound necessitated a tourniquet, if you determined a wound necessitated a tourniquet, then you probably could go to a training tourniquet, a blue tourniquet. But alternatively, and maybe a better choice, is direct pressure, because like we talked about previously, direct pressure is always your friend when it comes to stopping severe hemorrhaging, severe bleeding. So that's why blue tourniquets are important to note. They typically, they are used for training, and you can just assume that they've been used multiple times and should not be used for an emergency real scenario. So with that, we're going to wrap up this quick, short video. I just wanted to come on here and talk about tourniquet colors a little bit, and one in particular that you should note and pay attention to and know why it is the color it is, and that typically it should be avoided for real life scenarios. With that, if you like our videos, be sure to like them below, subscribe to our channel, stay tuned. We've got other videos in this series on tourniquets coming up. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you soon.